Well, good morning and hello. Welcome to episode 325 of Hobby Hotline. Happy to be on Bench Clear this morning, as we are every Saturday morning. Adam from Splendid Sports and Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, in his NFL season hat. Always fashionably seasonable, Dr. Beckett.
I'm not going to wear a cowboy thing because they are no longer in the NFL.
That's hilarious. Adam, how you doing?
Good. Didn't they just sign Daniel Jones, Dr. Beckett?
They're going to trade Dak for Daniel Jones.
I heard they're going to get Daniel Jones.
Pick him up real cheap.
There's hope.
Might be an improvement.
Yeah.
I like this. Mad City Brew, good morning. 80 days until spring training. There we go. Ruben, doing the evening and the morning flip. Good to see you. Trace Hombres, good to see you, Stooks. Billy Joe, good morning. Al Ball, good morning. We got everybody today. Morning, guys. Dr. B in the house. Vintage card collector. Mookie, whoa, look at this lineup. Well, 2 out of 3 is not bad, Mookie. I'm just holding down the other box here. Yeah. And hello, everyone. Peter, thanks for joining us, Peter. So I'm a baseball fan. I want to start off with a little bit of baseball talk. We had all the awards announced recently. I don't think there are a ton of surprises, but relevant to the hobby, first of all, are the MVP winners. So, Adam, any surprises, any thoughts on Judge and Shohei?
I think it was pretty obvious. I think everyone really knew who was going to win, right, from each league. So, yeah, it was the 2 best players from each league. So, and they were in the World Series, which was cool. But, yeah, it wasn't a surprise to me.
Dr. Beckett, no surprises at all.
What am I saying? Oh, I'm totally shocked.
Yeah.
Right. Hot take.
Double anonymous winners. One of the things I look at when I'm trying to figure out who the best players are in baseball or anything, but at baseball especially, I look at the top 10 in the MVP, because this year, anybody that had a really good season was smoked by Ohtani and Judge. If you came in second this year, that would have been first in a lot of years. And so I look at the top 10 and try to see who the best players are. And if they're the top 10, and it's like when Ripken was the all-star shortstop every year. If you were the second best shortstop in the American League, you didn't make the all-star games, or at least the starting lineup. And so those guys were almost otherworldly.
Yeah, and Ripken was deserving every year. Let's be honest.
I know, but who the second best guy is not Chop Liver?
No,
or Derek Jeter after that. So,
and double points for the Chop Liver reference. Red Light 34. Hello, all. Good morning, Ruben. I feel if Witt has much exposure, that Judge, it would have been a closer vote. Adam, I love that point. If you put Judge in Kansas City and you put Witt in New York, does that change the voting, or Judge's numbers just off the charts?
I think Judge still wins, but Bobby Witt in New York, that would be something, really. I think that would make him on another level in the hobby if he was on the Yankees. But I think Judge, no matter what team he was on, the season he had, he deserved the MVP.
Dr. Beckett, what do you think if they flip-flopped?
Well, all I know is that not everybody rises to the occasion in New York. New York's a tough place to play. And so if Bobby Witt goes to New York, does he have the same stats? Better, worse? I don't know. But there's a lot of players that have gone to New York and have been intimidated. Bobby Witt, I think he's great where he is. And to come in second and have a great season, like I say, there ought to be awards for the silver medal and the bronze medal in these award contests, because he had a great season.
Yeah. I think Mookie's speaking to that. Sorry, Shohei, I'll still take Francisco Lindor, switch hitting shortstop, great leader. I don't think he surpasses Shohei, but to Dr. Beckett's point from before, Francisco Lindor, not Chop Liver. and I'll go a step further. If Mookie Betts would have been healthy all year, he absolutely is the type of player who would have been in the MVP conversation, even if he doesn't win it. All right, but what that leads to, and the hobby relation, is the MVP buyback program. I'm a big fan of the MVP buyback program. And let me get the numbers right here. A base card is $20 in credit. A refractor is 40. Number to 100 is 100. I mean, number above 100 is $100 in store credit, and under 100 is $200 in store credit. Dr. Beckett, start with you. LCSs seem to be loving this. Is this a program that's kind of here to stay?
Who doesn't love it?
Yeah.
It's one of the really good deals for open and wax. When you break something, that's a product that you just got to be loving it. And they weren't unexpected winners, so they weren't going to go cheap at any point.
And
this is a bonanza.
And
good card shops too.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's where I was headed, Adam. How long ago would you have been buying Judge and Ohtani if you wanted to make money on the buyback? I mean, you could have bought them months ago.
Yeah, and I think this is I'm going to say a bold statement. I think this is the best idea in sports cards since Dr. Beckett made the price guide. I just love the concept of it, because I actually think they should expand it. I think they should do things like pick a player, whatever. You bring in 10 of their base cards, and you can upgrade that to a parallel or something like that. Or, store credit's good, but you can get real creative with this idea, and it's bringing people out of their house to card shops, interacting with, and it's bringing traffic into card shops. So I just see so many benefits from it, and I think they should not just do it for MVPs. I think they should expand it.
Because it involves base cards.
Yes.
Base cards are important in the hobby.
They're now worth $20 for an MVP. I can't remember. I mean, Dr. Beckett, when was the last time commons that were non-rookies, not your Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards, but base cards had this type of pricing?
Well, back in 1952, this young Mickey Mantle and young Willie Mays. Now, it's unprecedented, and it's so outrageous that it gets attention. Like I said, the card shops have to be loving this. It's win-win, because Topps is promoting it in a way that encourages more sales. It's just, like I said, there's got to be, if Mookie Betts is still going to be a 50-cent card, of his base card, and Lindor and Bobby Witt, when it's a third or fourth year of some of these guys, those are not high demand commons. They're not commons, but they're star cards, but they're plentiful base cards. If there was a buyback on Bobby Witt for $5, everybody would be in line. Lindor at $2 even.
Do you see this expanding to other awards, Adam?
I hope so. I think, like I said, I don't think it has to just be awards. I think they can create whatever they want. Gamify base cards, because who doesn't like opening a pack and getting more things that you're excited about, right? Now, when you open a pack of cards, a lot of kids, they see the base card. When I was a kid, they were all base cards that I was opening, but now, they see the base cards as, oh, I didn't hit anything. But Fanatics, Topps, they can gamify this where, they're creating, whether it's artificial or not, it really doesn't matter. They're creating demand, which I think if they do want to grow collectors and grow the hobby, it's a fantastic idea. So I hope they do it, not just awards, pick players, pick whatever, pick a team, in a local market. So if you're in Boston and you bring in Red Sox base cards to a hobby shop, you can exchange that, or they'll come up with ideas on what to do with it. But you're just creating activity, which is awesome.
Well, you're also creating oversupply, and so this is why this idea really should only be applied to a flagship type set that is going to be running the presses so that everybody has a chance. And so you're not going to complain about overproduction because you're still looking for that. But if they applied this broadly to all products, it would increase production. Not a good thing. We want to 10x. We want to 10x the number of collectors. We don't want to 10x the number of cards.
Right.
How about the breakers who are not used to shipping commons? Now all of a sudden everybody's going to want all their base commons shipped. I'm always good for an MVP conversation. So Mike Petty says that Shoelay stole 40 useless bases when Ricky would have had 200 with these rules. Injured when it mattered. Mookie is right. Mookie Chilson. Lindor got them there. There is good arguments for other people. I think that Shohei, it's more than just the numbers. It's the market. It's getting to the playoffs for the first time. It's obviously the stolen bases, home run combo. It's just too many factors that I think converged all at once. Rex, who, if you don't know,
it's hard to steal 200 bases. To steal 200 bases, you got to get on base 200 times.
Yes.
Well, actually not. You could just get on first and steal second, third, and home. but Ricky Henderson, hit a lot of leadoff home runs, but he hit a lot of singles too, and he walked a lot. And so he's on first base, and he would have a 90% success rate for getting from first to second, and maybe even second to third.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he'd make 200 stolen bases, but he could break the record. Or any of those guys at the day. Lou Brock, you need to get on base, and then it's just they'd have a field day.
I mean, that's one of the things that blows me away, to be honest, that people don't talk about that a little bit more. And I wonder if one day we're going to look at, there's all these different eras in baseball history. If the new rules era will be looked at, and Shohei's numbers, may be looked at differently 30 years from now, 40 years from now, if people are stealing 70 bases every year. Adam,
well, it's possibly worth a asterisk. I mean, it's a fundamental change.
Well, it's similar in football with the NFL adding an extra game. That's good. Like someone like Patrick Mahomes or some of these young quarterbacks now, having that extra game every year is going to really compile over their career for all-time yardage and all that stuff. So yeah, the game changes over time. I guess you got to look at it in different lenses. So, well,
and it's moving toward more excitement because bigger numbers. That's the last time when they raise the mound, I guess that pleases the pitchers, but it upsets the hitters. If they lower it, there's always an effect, and it's usually toward more offense.
Yeah.
In all the leagues, I think. More scoring.
And it was 67, I think they raised it, because Frank Robinson won the Triple Crown in 66 with like a 316 batting average or something very low to lead the league. So, there's always adjustments. Talking about the buyback program, Ruben would like it to apply from 88 to 92. That'd be fantastic if we could go to previous MVPs, and pull out Willie Guillermo Hernandez from the Tigers in '84. And if you still have his cards, wouldn't that be a fascinating promotion? Talking about Ricky Henderson, high on base percentage, very true. And Mike Petty says, give him 6 inches, a replay, and 2 pickoff moves. Yeah, huge advantage in today's running game. Mookie says no asterisk after they lowered the mound. Good point. Larry, good morning. Good to see you. Rex, who, by the way, thank you for your comments. If you guys don't know, Rex owns the sports card shop. And so talking about the LCS is loving the buyback program. But he says that Bradshaw, Montana, Aikman, Marino, Elway all played when you could actually hit quarterbacks and wide receivers. Brady did not. Well, Adam, was Brady I want you to answer this one. What do you think of Brady? Did he ask for too many calls? Was he a little whiny?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm from New England,
I
and
know. I
I
didn't
collect
ask the
Tom
wrong
Brady,
guy.
so I'm biased. But I do have to kick back. Look at some of the highlights from Tom Brady's maybe the first half of his career. He took some huge hits. The latter half of his career, obviously the league had changed, but he still played in in the early 2000s. The league was rough back then still. So, but yeah, I understand. I think Brady's at a point now where like Michael Jordan was after he retired. But now everyone loves Michael Jordan. I think everyone will love Tom Brady after the dust has settled over time.
I couldn't help but throw that one at you.
Yeah.
Thank you for putting that in, Rex.
Danny, it's also correlated with the uproar about the traumatic brain injuries and other kinds of concussions and things like that. So football is not as brutal as it was, and it's actually not to the advantage of all the quarterbacks that are mentioned there as much as it is to the new breed of quarterback, which is the Lamar Jackson, highly Josh Allen, highly mobile quarterback who's out there. And if the old rules, they'd be getting their heads taken off, but they're sliding, they're being coddled in the pocket, and you can't, if they're running out of bounds, you better not even touch them. You just let them run out of bounds.
Which makes me wonder, across different sports, the MVP buyback program. Dr. Beckett, real quick, do you think that would boost other sports-based sales at all, or people are just going to cash in on what they're already buying?
Well, if Ken, we'll see, because Fanatics in a year or two is going to have the major licenses of basketball, football, and baseball, and it might be something that they'll have, probably a flagship type set that they could do that. I think it'd be a good idea. I'd encourage them to do it. Now, again, not across all brands, and I don't think Panini wants to be a copycat in their kind of lame duck situation. But Topps, that'd be great if the flagships had that. That would be a kind of a trademark, or a kind of almost a patented provision and benefit and bonus in the flagship sets, that it's MVP. There's MVP promotions have gone way back. There have been things like that, but this one is amazing. $20 for a base card is just that's not short printed. That's amazing.
And how many people are just turning those into a couple packs of cards and leaving thrilled? It's not like it's a down payment on a 52 mantle, but reinvest it right back into, I think, new product typically, and good for the LCS, and then it's money right back to Fanatics. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. Also, just wanted to point out, to wrap up the quarterback conversation, the money they make now makes it a lot easier to retire younger and not have to put themselves at risk longer in their career. Back in the day, guys a lot of times played longer to get the extra paychecks in those final couple of years. Let me just wrap up some of the vintage conversation here on the stolen bases. 1969, Mound was raised after all the great pitching seasons. Absolutely. One is that a 1300 OPS, I guess, hitter in the AL in 68. Gibson lower
hitter, 1-300 hitter.
Whoa, 1-300 hitter. Oh, thank you. Good thing I'm not an editor. Gibson low ERA, Drysdale 6 straight shutouts, McLean 31 wins. Yeah, no doubt. The rules today favor different things than the old days. However, you had a World Series that had ground rule triples at the beginning of the century, because they let fans stand on the field with a rope. So things have been different forever. Shohei, I think, is in better shape than most of the people in the chat. I'll leave it at that. Chris Harris, good to see you, buddy. I'm sure if you rely on a rebate program, you're basically conceding the fact that the price of the wax is too high. That's a great point. Adam, I'll start with you on that one. Does that imply that the wax is too high that they're doing this, or as kind of a thank you?
I mean, I guess prices are probably too high, but people are paying it, or breakers are paying. I don't really understand why it's so high so much. I mean, I guess it's because the demand's high, but yeah, I don't know. I just think it's a great idea. I just think of the ramifications. Is all these things, like I saw in the comment. What about the ones that don't get turned in? Are they going to be in the future like chased after because there's not many still out there? And I was thinking, like, what's the last iconic baseball card? Because of all the dilution in products, and there's so many different variations that maybe it's 2011 Mike Trout base card or something like that. But this could even create like iconic base cards that people will remember down the road. Hey, remember when I traded that card in and got whatever? So it's just creating more memories and more activity, which I love.
I love your attitude. You're so wholesome. I want to pinch your cheeks sometimes, Adam.
Again, the dream of every card manufacturer is to produce and sell more product at higher prices. That's good for their bottom line. And so this has done that. And it's there's a circularity to it, that it's also promoting the card shops, which I think is terrific. So they're loving this.
And to piggyback on that, Rex says expanding the buyback would have to make good economic sense for them to do football, basketball. Chrome baseball wholesale prices were much higher this year than last. So that's an interesting combination there. Rex always dropping the knowledge. Ruben says, with the buyback going back to the manufacturer, does that make cards that aren't turned in sought after card? I thought they had a deadline on it. I thought there was a deadline. So I think if you don't get it in by the deadline, then the cards go back to base cards. It's like the pumpkin. You turn into the pumpkin at midnight. And I think that's how it goes. Adam, if you were looking at next year's MVPs and you're buying base cards coming out, who are you looking at?
Well, Bobby Witt, like we mentioned, maybe he makes another step up. Bobby Witt, and then my favorite player is Mookie Betts. I love Mookie. I wish the Red Sox never traded him, but if he stays healthy for a full year, to your point, I think he could give Shohei a run for his money with the stats and everything. So it's just funny they're on the same team. It's kind of crazy.
Dr. Beckett, do you like the strategy of trying to buy the MVPs early in the year?
I'm sure people are doing that. I mean, basically, you'd make a market, or you'd be hedging, or you'd buy a product. You're going to get rid of anybody that has no chance, but you're going to hold on, and you may even not bounties, but you may even put out buy offers. Like you say, you're going through a dollar box, and you see somebody that potentially could be the MVP. It may be in a quarter box, but I don't know they're going to be in there, because people are there. There's enough really smart, savvy collectors that want to get ahead of the game. So yeah, if you break your own box or a couple boxes, you're going to be very careful about selling too soon.
Yeah. No. And in general, I don't like breaking boxes looking for single cards. I'd rather look through the dollar box or buy a lot of commons from somebody.
But you might have your 10 top guys, 10 guys, that like I said, the top 10 from last year, or up and comers. But, a lot of these things, sometimes there's somebody that just comes out of nowhere. So I'd be real careful about selling off if I had those products that are eligible. I'd open them up, but I wouldn't be quick to sell base cards of guys that potentially could be the Hall of Famer unless at a premium.
Rex says it's not too high if the market demands it. Talking about pricing, shops have been sold out of Chrome, Hobby, and Jumbos for months. There are only blasters left at this point. To Dr. Beckett's point before, these are for-profit businesses. Don't confuse that with charity. And if they can sell out, then they're going to sell out. And if they can sell out at this price, next year will be even higher, and they're going to see if they can sell out at that price. And talking about the MVP buyback, the deadline is February. So I guess you can offer what you want up to a certain point to make money until February. Rex says Chrome comes out pretty late in the season. I looked at Otani and Judge base on eBay when they first hit, and they were both going for 15 plus shipping. Tough to make money on those. Well, maybe that's to the point of breaking your own and not buying them on eBay as a better way to get them. Sorry.
It's math. You know, if you look at the Vegas odds throughout the season of who's potentially be the Hall of Fame, you can work it out. You know, if you got 10-1 odds for somebody, you're going to pay X. If it's 5-1, you're going to pay something else. If it's even odds, you're going to pay something else. If it's even odds, you're probably going to pay $10 or less to get the 20.
And I'll say this: Maryland has legal sports wagering, and hypothetically, that's one of my theories on dropping $1 or $2 on a player is just watching the odds and seeing how they move and paying very little for somebody who could have a good return.
I have said that Fanatics will be moving toward the greater integration of gambling with apparel and cards and memorabilia. They're gonna integrate that in a way that we don't. I can't foresee how it's going to happen, but this is an example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Philly Joe says, is there a max amount the shops will buy cards back for? So I don't know if
max amount of cards. I think they have to take whatever you bring in.
That was my understanding. Or is it a max amount they'll pay per card, which is standard?
There's not a max.
No negotiating on that.
They pay what they pay.
Yeah, there's no negotiating on that. All right. Well, that went longer than I expected, but I love talking MVPs and things that don't have answers always. One of the biggest things that I think, and we'll stick with cards for a second, is Sadaharu. Great Japanese player, all-time home run king, worldwide home run king, I believe. I don't remember if Bonds, whether or not you count that, beat him. But I think it's fantastic that they're bringing his cards, and it's a long-term contract. It's not a one-on-one superfractor that he's going to start having cards inserted into regular product. Adam, does that make you want to go out and get his cards?
No, but I do want to mention my friend Dylan, Double D Vintage Baseball Cards. John Mangini, and a dealer of Japanese cards, I forget his name, but they recently did a video on Dylan's channel where they talked about Japanese cards, Sadaharu Oh. They collect those cards, and that made me want to collect some of these cards. But yeah, I mean, I think it's great that Topps is like highlighting this now. But yeah, it's a big rabbit hole to go down, I guess. So I'm trying to be careful. But watching that video and learning so much about all these cards I had no idea about made me want to collect some.
Dr. Beckett, what do you think about the respect for O?
Well, I mean, there should be respect for him, and but just like with American players, there's a greater appreciation for cards when the guy was playing. That's one thing. So the cards long after their career is another story. There'll still be some demand for it. I'm troubled by the fact that they're going to have a multi-year agreement with a guy. I mean, that just means they can do a bunch of them this year and a bunch more next year and a bunch more the year after and a bunch more the year after that, as long as they can. If they milk it, then anything that came out the first year is going to be selling like hotcakes. The second year, oh yeah, here's some more Sadaharu Oh autographs or special cards. And so I'm a purist. If they flood the market, not flood the market, but if they print as many as they can the first year and then as many as they can the second year and the third year, at some point there's some diminishing returns for a guy who's a legendary figure in the international all-time home run king. I think he's got more than 800.
Yeah.
I think it's all his non-current cards, his memorabilia, his vintage cards. I think all of those go up in price. I think it brings awareness.
For sure.
And to your point, Dr. Beckett, the people who don't want the modern or don't want to chase those prices, and really is like Adam said, there's people out there who have been collecting Japanese cards for a long time and are experts. And
the way they're experts is that some of the Sadaharu cards do not have his name on there in English. Okay. So unless you can recognize his face, or he did have a kind of a famous, swing kind of a thing, or you can read kanji, or the characters. It's just a Japanese card. Yep. And it's Robert Clevens.
That's right. Yep.
I've known him for a long time, and he speaks Japanese. He's over there. He knows. He went to the source, so he's got fabulous stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I got my type cards from him when I was doing the books.
Interesting. How long, Dr. Beckett, have Japanese cards been on the radar to you as kind of a niche? I'll admit, when I was in the hobby 30 years ago, I don't remember hearing people talk about international cards nearly as much as I hear about it since the pandemic, maybe.
Well, when I used to go to the Hawaii show every year, and that's where you would see them. There'd be some Japanese dealers and more stuff there. And I was always trying to get, again, not complete sets, but type cards. And so and that was in the 80s. So they've been out there, but in the 80s, maybe 90s, 2000s, at some point, international cards were not disrespected. A lot of the European, the British, the German, any of that stuff was just not mainstream until recently. And same thing with Japanese. It was just, if you want to collect those, but that's not what the serious collectors go after. And then all of a sudden, collectors woke up and said, hey, these are actually tougher. And these players are iconic, and they're just because they played in Japan doesn't mean they couldn't play in the major leagues, because now you've seen Ichiro, Shohei, Nomo. You've seen these different Japanese players come over and be really good at pitching and hitting, or both. And so they get the respect. They demand the respect, and so that sends people back to say, hey, let's take a second look. These Japanese is not a minor league.
Interesting perspective here. Midlife Sports Card says, in talking with Robert at the National, he says that the Japanese culture doesn't value old stuff, so the new O cards may have much more demand in Japan. Well, that's an interesting perspective.
Even though Japanese and Asians in general and most cultures value older people,
yeah,
they have elder respect, but apparently older cards maybe not so much. But Robert's probably right, except that there're just not that many of them out there. So you could want them all you want. You could put a bounty on some of these things, and it's just they either don't exist or they're not for sale. They're very tough.
Adam, I was thinking a lot about soccer cards and stickers and the international, how the international community treats different products differently. Do you think that's something that we're going to start seeing more people respect? Is the other cultures collectible, whether it's a sticker or different, not our standard size card, that it's just different?
Hopefully, yeah, I think so. Over time, I've been hearing that for a long time, that soccer is the most popular sport in the world overall, and it's only a matter of time before everyone wants soccer cards. I guess it hasn't happened yet, but it could at some point. And obviously, yeah, in other countries, I guess. Maybe there's just not as many collectors outside of the U.S. right now. I don't really know the reason, but it is interesting to think about. What if some of these other countries took on collecting like we do here, and they would, obviously some of these countries their favorite sport's soccer. So that would be like their baseball cards, so to speak. So it would be really interesting to see that happen. And I'm sure Topps had that in mind when they're putting this out. This Otani's from Japan, and he's the MVP. So it's great timing, right? Because I think things are very popular there. So why not? Why not do it now and see how it goes over with the people back there and see how it goes as far as what they want to collect. But I think that probably does make sense. They're going to really be attracted to these new cards probably.
Three things.
Yep.
One is that back in the day, a long time ago, the stickers were intended to be stuck, and you would get like a starter pack, but you were allowed to send in duplicates and get, like 20 players back of quote unquote, supposedly the stickers that you needed, which I think people needed the better players. And so the superstar orientation kind of gets messed up. So there were perhaps more of those. Secondly, just the idea of a sticker that's being stuck, it could work to the advantage of people that don't stick them, and that they could get high grades if you don't mess with them. But so many of them are stuck. That was what was encouraged, that the unstuck ones ought to have more value, but they're not really, because they're too small. Now Panini now has some sticker sets that are 2.5 by 3.5.
Yeah.
And those sell way better. And there's parallels of the stickers and things like that. And so I think that's where it's going. Now, I think they got away with that because they still held the regular license. But usually the sticker license is for a smaller sticker type thing with an album, and it could be different than the card license.
And Panini for years is my understanding. PSA has expanded into Asia. I think that's a big sign of what they think the future is, and quite frankly, to handle the physical cards. I don't know how many times we've heard Chris Carlin talk on here and other places that people really like to hand their cards in, and a lot of people have a hesitation with shipping. So for them to open an office in Asia, I think speaks to that market. Adam, like you were saying, the collectability growing internationally, that's a sign it's really picking up. Shane says a multi-year agreement on O cards will have a much longer legs than most think. Well, there's a little contradiction, but maybe somebody like me who would just love an O autograph, I don't mind in 4 or 5 years if I can pick one up, more inexpensive as not an investment piece, just an O autograph. I don't know how much he'll be signing.
Like the Wemby effect. I mean, if Wemby goes on to be an all-time great, he started when he's 20, signing a lot of autographs this year. So 5 years later, I guess if it was with Michael Jordan or LeBron, some kind of a combo would be interesting. But just a plain Wemby autograph, he's already one of the most graded guys. He might be one of the most autographed guys if we at the rate we're going, because people demand it, but they demand it in ways that are not in the collector's best interest. It means the price has to come down.
And we hit it right on the nose. Mike Petty wanted to know where the Wemby talk was today. So we got that.
So sorry. I am so sorry.
He says 38 minutes in. We'll start timing it. This is a great topic I wanted to get into later. Rex says, any truth to the story that 350,000 in cards have gone missing from GameStop PSA submissions, causing GameStop to pause their grading services? Well, I did see online that they've paused their grading services. I did not, maybe it's true if anybody in the chat knows, that it was because $350,000 in cards went missing. Adam, can you ever imagine? Well, let me make it a little bit more neutral. How do you feel about dropping off cards at a GameStop to get graded?
I would never do that. Nothing against GameStop. I just, when I don't submit too many cards anymore, but when I used to, I used to submit it myself. And I never understood send it to this guy and he's going to send it. it's not that hard once you look it up on the website. It's pretty easy to do. So I always just preferred to send in my own cards. But I understand the idea behind it and makes sense. But yeah, not for me.
Danny,
yeah,
there's a new day coming for GameStop because they have a new board member. And when the relationship with PSA was announced, we all thought, I wonder how this is going to work. I see lots of potential problems, and I think there have been problems, but it's Nat Turner to the rescue. If he's on the board, I think they're going to try to fix those problems. There are too many retail stores out there of GameStop, too many retail outlets for people to be convenient. And but I'd be nervous about bringing. Let's put it this way: I'd rather put it in the mail than give it to GameStop.
Yeah,
I mean that's, and I don't want to pick on the people who work at GameStop. They are good, hardworking people, I'm sure. But I've tried to reserve games for my kids, and they haven't gotten that straight. So the idea that I would drop off any value of cards to those employees and trust that I would ever see them again.
The other problem, guys, is that this is where PSA, their strategy, which they've made work, of charging more upcharges when you have to declare the value. You're just telling somebody this is a really good card, and I'm paying extra to get this graded because I'm declaring the value. And if they were just putting in, if somebody took, here's my 50 cards, send them to PSA, the GameStop employee is not going to know which one is the better card, probably, unless they're really, really into the hobby. And they're not going to necessarily look them all up. But as soon as it's listed there, you've got an inventory and you find out, well, this one is the really expensive one, it could go missing. And I don't like that. But like I said, I think Nat Turner's there's real potential to having more places, more touch points that are more convenient for customers. And if he makes that work, then he's going to look really smart, which he is.
Do either one of you ever see the idea of a PSA store? More, I know they've got some submission centers, a couple, but an actual PSA store that could theoretically sell cards or accessories, but take submissions directly.
It's not in their best interest. I mean, they already have that. They have bulk submitters. They have they have locations now in West Coast, East Coast, and Midwest, or at least it's coming. Japan, Germany, or where they have something going in London or Europe or somewhere, or that's in the works. So they're being smart about it. I mean, GameStop is a throwback.
Yeah,
it's retro. Okay, but it still has lots of stores. 40 years ago, 30 years ago, there were 20,000 card shops. You wouldn't need GameStop, but now there's more GameStops than there are card shops. So it's if he can figure it out, but I wouldn't want to be having a lot of cards. I mean, if you were going to rob a store, would you like to rob an LCS or Fort Knox, or the PSA store that's holding all these great cards in process? So I don't like the idea, and I think Nat Turner's doubling down with GameStop to say, hey, I'm gonna personally get involved and make sure they get it right.
Sometimes doubling down digs you out of a hole, and sometimes it just makes the hole deeper. So we'll see on this. But Peter says what we're all thinking, and I know he's being sarcastic here. You mean I can drop off my 52 mantle at GameStop and it'll be sent to PSA to be graded? See if folks got to run to the mall. I think I think it's more for a modern kids approach, but I agree with Dr. Beckett. I just don't see it ever being a solution. But who knows what Nat will come up with. Adam, when Fanatics buys Beckett, you'll be able to submit all your submissions at Lid stores. I don't know. What do you think of submitting at Fanatic stores versus GameStop?
Yeah, I guess it's probably you feel a little more comfortable, rather than, whatever, a video game store. At least it's a Fanatic store. So probably gives a little more credibility. But um, why did Fanatics buy Beck? Did I not hear about that? Or
No.
is that breaking news?
All people making up some news. No,
I heard that Jeff Wilson wants to buy Beckett too. I saw a video about that. Man, there's a lot of news out there right now.
Yeah.
I am not for sale. I am not for sale.
I wish Dr. Beckett would. I wish he would get back in there. Get back in there.
What everybody says. Dr. Beckett, can you confirm or deny that you are going back to Beckett?
I can easily deny that. Although I'll be over there in a few weeks, dropping off some more cards for grading. But yeah, I love those guys. I mean, the guys that used to work for me. There's some great people over there, but they've got work to do to get back to their former position.
I don't know how much you can talk to this now, but can you talk about the Beckett marketplace, just kind of the percentage of the business versus grading versus price guides? Do you know what that breakdown is? Can that be shared?
I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm sure grading is the number one thing.
Interesting. Because the
marketplace doesn't throw off. I mean, I think it has, I guess I could be critical. I think it hasn't been properly marketed. I mean, they had a great idea there, but I don't want to sharpshoot of what I would do different, but I would have done things differently. And there's some other things that they've earned the right to do it the way they want to do it. But I had a different approach to things, and now I got hindsight. But yeah, marketplace was a fabulous idea, and it hasn't caught on as well as it could. I mean, ComC is something that Beckett could have done, and we had that same idea, but Tim Getch pulled it off, and we were busy making money with price guides and grading, and he said, "Here's an opportunity." He jumped in, and he's done great, and he was the right man for the job in the sense that he had the collecting sense as well as the programming. He's a he's a good guy and was sharp enough and cared about the hobby, and I think did it right.
Looking at the chat room, John Mangini says that Dr. Beckett, if you buy back, he'll work for free. So you have one free employee when you negotiate.
I'll work as long as I can work from home. I'm in.
We got 1.5, Dr. Beckett. This is turning into a telethon somehow.
Not that anyone wants me, but
going to crowd the labor. That's interesting.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. I've buried probably my favorite story of the week. Jackie Robinson debut ticket going up for auction at REA. Only one of 7 in the PSA database. I think it's just a legendary part of history. I think it's, the term Holy Grail gets thrown around, but, just one of those games where, not just baseball, but America had a change. Adam, can you think of another game that in baseball history that would be more important?
No, I think that's the one right there. I mean, that's just awesome. And I like to collect tickets too. I know they're not as popular as some other collectibles or whatever, but I think tickets are awesome. Just especially I have ones at like games I went to, and it's just fun, fun collectible. And I think that's the most important game right there.
Dr. Beckett, do you still have your ticket from the game? It happened before I was born. Yeah, right. No, it's I agree with you, Adam. I've got tickets from when I was games I went to, and they weren't all famous games, but some of them were, World Series or All-Star games and things like that. But I don't feel the need to slab them. I don't think they're going to have exceptional resale value. That particular one does, because it's not contrived. I suppose people should have known history was being made, but people, and some people held on to their stubs in many cases, but that's a legit fabulous collectible. And I'm glad it's being slabbed and I guess sold to the highest bidder. It's about as good as it gets.
There was another one that was similar looking. I think it was a 2 that sold a couple years ago for close to $500,000. So, the market shifted. I could see this easily hitting near 7 figures. Would you guys agree?
It's very possible.
Adam,
Yeah.
how much are you bidding?
I'll be watching. But
Here's an experiment. Would you rather have that or the Otani ball that went for $4+ million that's up in a tower in Taipei? I'd rather have this ticket stub.
10 out of 10 times.
Definitely.
Yeah. So does it go for 4.4 million? I don't think so.
Well,
things have happened.
Does the scarcity of 7 versus 1 make that much of a difference?
7 is the perfect number.
Yeah.
7 is lucky.
Lucky.
Well, it was 77.
Only 7. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
well.
And somebody made a great point on here. It's sad to see everything move to electronic tickets. No more memory keepsakes. I will say that it's not always worth it, but if you want to go to the ticket office, a lot of times they will print a ticket for you. If you're taking your kid to their first game or something like that, where it's a special memory, I think it's worth doing just for that reason.
However, when I go to the Mavs games on my season tickets, and when I go through the turnstile there and they check me in through my phone, the next morning, I've got an NFT in my account.
Really?
From that game.
That's fascinating. I wonder, I've never heard of a team doing that. I wonder if that's was a Mark Cuban special. That's really cool, actually. Who knows if the NFT will, I wonder if there's ever been a resale with value.
If so, good luck getting your money out, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, really. Larry says, I have a ton of printed tickets, but now you have to save the tickets on your phone or in your crypto account. Just want to clean up here. Foul Ball, if anybody wants to see him, will be at the Pasadena show today. White Sox, Tom, they're all closing all ticket agents at ballparks. Yes, the good old fashioned who needs two. I will miss. That was a big part of my childhood. The Lynx printed a seat ticket for the WNBA Finals game. Very cool. Love to see that. And Clean Cheap Shot says the local alma mater will no longer provide a paper ticket starting next year. That's a shame. And I do just want to touch on the Jackie Robinson ticket. This one was, and I want to put it back up here, ripped. It looks like it was torn, and it's hard to see horizontally, and was then repaired. That's why it got authentic altered and marked as the stub. For something like this on a game like this, Adam, does that bother you at all, or is it just the ticket itself is cool enough?
Yeah, that wouldn't bother me. Just having the ticket itself. Yep, the altered thing is whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you really find out what kind of collector you are when you say, you know what, I'm going to pass on that and wait for a better one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you know you're a conditioned snob.
Yeah.
And for an item like that, just grab it and enjoy it. It's a piece of history. And it proves somebody went to the game,
Yeah. So. Well, in the ticket world, ticket stubs that were in the building go for more money. People like to know that the ticket itself was at the event. So, you can surmise, it's hard to tell that ticket was at the event. Mad City Brewer, very funny. Maybe the NFT is a discount for a submission with GameStop. There you go, Dr. Beckett. You can go to a game and get your discount for GameStop submissions. All right, guys. I always like to know what's your hobby weekend look like, Adam?
Not too much. I just had a cool pickup I wanted to show. Actually, I got I'm a big fan of the '92 Dream Team, and Panini made some cool stuff. And like this was 2011. This is game used Larry Bird, Chris Mullin, and David Robinson from the '92 Dream Team materials right there. So shout out to Panini for making some really cool stuff that I don't think a lot of people know about these type of things. So yeah, right around this time period, they made a few sets. So this was one of my favorite pickups here recently.
Well, why do you have your own?
Oh, yeah, these are from Zion Cases makes these Mag Pros, and these type of cards, kind of what you're saying. I don't need to grade them, so I just put in my own slabs and put my own name Splendid Sports on there. So self slab.
So it's an 11.
It's exactly gem mint.
They're all gem mint when you grade them yourselves,
right?
Dr. Beckett, are you still selling off the collection 1% at a time?
1% a month.
How's it going?
Actually, a little higher than 1% last month.
On purpose?
On purpose, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to speed it up.
do you have a deadline?
Like 100 months? What are you saying, Danny?
That's what I'm saying. I'm wondering, how long at 1%?
The 50 is a good goal, because if I can whittle it by half,
okay,
in 4 or 5 years, that's really good, and I'm on real good pace for that. So I'll have more time with less cards. Be able to, because right now I'm still going through stuff that I don't have time for. People say, "What are you picking up?" Well, I don't have time to pick up very much stuff when I can't even have time to take care of what I have. So, but I'm making progress, and it's fun. It's fun.
You can let them know that you're investing in MVPs for the buyback program next year.
I would be willing to trade. Yeah, I want to, unfortunately, Danny and Adam, nobody really wants to trade quantity for quality. I'd love to trade quantity for quality. I can't find people generally that want to do that.
I've got 3 kids. Tell me about
it. You want to trade them in for one superstar?
That's just one college tuition, just, nothing wrong with that. I love my kids, honey, if you're watching. All right, guys, thank you. This was a fantastic show. I appreciate seeing you guys. It's been a little bit since I've seen each of you. Adam, be well. Dr. Beckett, be well.
Thanks,
and happy holidays if I don't see you for Thanksgiving and the end of the year.
Lots to be thankful for.
Yes,
absolutely. And to everybody in the chat room, great chat room as always. Simply just one of the best out there. Take care.